welcome to the Voyage Clinics Podcast. I'm Dr. John, your host. I'm a family physician. And today I have two sweet guests with a really incredible journey that I'm excited to kind of hear about myself, but also to learn from as well. So welcome, guys. The Rackham family. We have Amanda and Kolton. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you for having us. Yeah.
So stoked to be here.
So a couple of episodes ago, my wife and I talked, and my wife is a nerd. I guess we're all nerds,
Yes.
but like my wife is a super
My
nerd.
favorite.
She has a master's in English. Her undergrad was in English with a minor in math and French and piano. So she's like right brain, left brain. She's got it all. She's a poet, but then she also did a JD MBA, and she's a neat gal. And I really, in our discussion, we talked about the hero's journey, and we highlighted some of, I forget who wrote the hero's journey, but she knows because she's a nerd in literature. But she highlighted some of those elements of that journey and of venturing out and of the trials, and then having a coach or somebody that kind of you glean some information from, and then coming back to your tribe with this new knowledge and this new cool things that you learned and growed from. So I want to just kind of listen to your story and tell us a little bit about you guys. First off, tell us where you're from, and then tell us about what inspired this journey, and then let's talk about the journey.
Sweet.
All right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I'm Kolton Rackham. I grew up in Syracuse, just about an hour north here. I met my lovely wife here, Amanda, at a class in Salt Lake City.
Let's go.
It was awesome.
Cooking class?
Oh, that would have been fun.
Yeah.
No, actually, a personal development seminar.
Let's go.
Which set the tone for our life.
It did. Yeah. I think maybe a couple years before that, I had been invited to, it was called a Super Saturday for this company that did these events that were around personal development and business growth. And that was where I discovered or was taught about the RAS filter. And I just was like, I could just feel it in my whole being. I was like, I will be learning about this forever and studying it and integrating it. And so meeting her there at this class that we were learning about body language and vision boards and communication, I just was like, what a great place to meet somebody. And so, yeah, before I jump into the story, I'd love for her to share where you came from.
I'm from Provo. Yeah, I'm from right down the road.
Oh, cool.
Grew up in a complicatedly blended family. We're all adopted, so it just is a modge podge of different backgrounds, and led me to the class where my husband and I met, because I was sort of seeking and searching the understanding of myself and how I operate, because we, coming from so many different backgrounds, we all operated so differently. And so it was, I was on this journey of self-discovery and ran into my wonderful husband along the way.
Mm-hmm. I just throw out there, it's so cool to see, hearing the background stories of a blended family like that, and then having just a dinner this last weekend with them, and like how they communicate and share stories and reminisce and go play ball outside, and like, wow, this is so cool to see how far they've come and transform into just make it synergistic and beautiful. I love it.
Amanda, tell us a little bit more about your family. So a blended family with a lot of adopted kiddos.
All kids are adopted. So my parents adopted 5 kids. Only one of them was a baby. So they kind of lucked out and skipped a lot of those baby phases that are a little bit more messy. But we all came from different systems around the United States. And my mom was a, what's the word I'm looking for? Social worker, and got involved in it, and they couldn't have kids. So they ended up adopting 5, and 5 kids with almost 5 backgrounds. My brother and I are half siblings. And so we share a little bit, but we even are so different. So yeah.
That's really cool.
Thank you.
I grew up in a adopted family too. My stepdad adopted me and my older brother.
Oh, cool.
And then I have a half brother, and then he's my cousin, but we adopted him because he was in.
Yeah.
So similar stuff where, you're genetically a little different, but also family, and putting that together in however it fits, imperfectly, but also beautifully.
It puts a different emphasis on choosing family.
Yeah.
Is something that we, as we got into our adult lives, and we all kind of, my mom will be the first one to say this, that we None of us took a traditional path. We're all doing our own thing in our own way. And it's cool because at first in our adult life, we kind of all wandered off into our own directions and we're kind of figuring our own stuff out. And now that we've all sort of established families and things, I've seen all of us kind of weave back in together going, yeah, this is our family unit. Yes, we choose this. Yes, we're, going to work through whatever we have to because we're all different and whatever. And so it changes the meaning of choosing family in a big way.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And I think it promotes you to like higher understanding of love and of connection. And like, if you, I don't know, somehow there's an appropriateness of love that sometimes if you're like very, very biologically, everyone's related, sometimes there's some wonkiness there. And if you're not all related and you're just kind of adopted, it kind of puts things into perspective. So my stepdad, he loved us, he raised us, he did some cool stuff, but he was never clenchy with us. He wasn't hovering, right? He wasn't hover dad or like thinking about, I got to make sure I control my kids and make them do all these things. And I think partially it was because we were adopted, so he loved us just enough, right? It was like never an oppressive kind of love. It was like, let's go camping, go get dirty, do your thing, and come back. And I don't know. I just think there's beauty to some distance relationship wise, and even if we do come from all kin, all of our kids are biological, like mine are right now, I'm still careful with the way that I love my kids. And I still am careful with giving them their own stewardship, their own space, their own
that autonomy
journey. Yeah, their own autonomous journey, and respect it and be like, dude, this is your journey. You get to figure it out. It's cool. Like, this is great. I respect it. Like, good job. You're making mistakes. Good job.
Totally.
Yeah, that's cool. It's imperfect, but it's beautiful. And I think it was meant to be that way.
All families are imperfect and beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. Choosing the love rather than feeling I have to love you. I'm your mom, whatever, like obligated. Like, no, I choose this because you're here, you're on your path and I'm on yours and they're together right now and I freaking love you.
That's right. That's right. Okay. So tell us a little bit about this class, because I feel like that was kind of like a pivot point for y'all. Like the intention of going to this personal development class was just to kind of discover a little bit more about maybe self, about others. Tell us about maybe, why don't you speak to that a little bit?
So honestly, I went there because I just had fallen in love with the growth, like the personal development, the RAS filter, all that. And I only found that information because I started going down a path that was leading me into trouble. I saw my relationships falling apart. I was losing money. I had to borrow money for the first time from my parents. I had to go to court, like all this stuff. I'm like, wait a second, like I can't go down. I got to change something. And at first I thought it was, I need to make money. So I found a business that could help me do that. But then they got me into what I really was looking for, which was growth and guidance and evolution. And so my aunt had gotten tickets to this class called Master Your Influence. And she goes, hey, you're into this stuff. I can get discounts on the ticket when I go. And I was like, yeah, sure. So she gets me a ticket, I pay her back, and I met her there. And that was in February 2016. So it wasn't till later that year where we really started to kind of hang out a lot and get to know each other and started going back to the classes together, because we're like, oh, we connected there. Let's go see some more of their classes. They're a little different. And 2 weeks before Christmas that year, I got fired from my job because I was going to these classes, and the boss realized, hey, you're choosing these classes over showing up for, the weekend you took time off again. And is it more important to you? And I thought, is it more important to me? The class was called Present Yourself. And I thought to myself, is it more important to me to learn how to present myself as a human being and who I am? Is that more important than like replacing window wells? And that's important stuff to take care of your home. But I just looked at him and said, yes, it is. And so he let me go. And I went out to the car and she was there. She was dropping me off at work. And what she had planned was to go to this company, and they did what was called crew cash you could get for volunteering. And so you could use the cash within their company to buy classes and audios. And it's like, sweet. So I go out and I said, I think I just got fired. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, well, he told me to pick up my check on Friday. And she's like, yeah, it sounds like you got fired. I'm like, all right. So we drive off, and I just like, it was the strangest thing. Cause normally, you know, before that and my anticipation, you know, my beliefs was when you get fired, it was detrimental. It was like hard and heavy. And I felt liberated and like light, and I was just smiling and I was all excited. And so because I got let go, thankfully, instead of her going to volunteer to get crew cash to buy me a ticket, we volunteered, got enough crew cash to buy us tickets to a class in January 2017 called The Art of Mentoring. And in that class, we were just discussing out in the lobby a minute ago, we believe it was the first day, could have been the second, but I think it was the first day. As they were talking about mentorship, I'm like, oh man, I had this all wrong. I'm thinking it's just, my belief of it was just basically to be a mentor, you have to be able to teach somebody how to make money. And like, that was so limited. And I started to realize, oh my gosh, mentorship is just guidance for growth or recognition of one's own blind spots or all these different things, where I was like, wow, this is incredible. And so I remember leaning over to her and said, hey, I think I'm supposed to be like a type of mentor of some sort. And she goes, yeah, I know. I was like, why don't you tell me? She's like, you can't just tell people their purpose. You got to let them figure that out. And
just because I can see things that other people can't.
so
they call that shadow leadership.
Yeah.
I'm glad you finally figured that out.
Yeah. I was like, cool.
About time.
I know. Thank you. So later that day or the next day, we're in the same class, and the presenter says, and this was followed by a lot of really cool, inspiring stuff too, but he said, 2017 is the year to be bold. And we had talked like maybe 10 minutes total of like, hey, let's do some type of like little walk or go adventure somewhere, or like maybe get a van and like drive around the country. And
I think the conversation was more about us getting a van and exploring the 50 states.
Yeah. So it's like literally like 5 or 10 minutes of conversation. Well, in this moment, she gets this inspiration of, if I can share your thoughts that you've told me, of like, the thoughts that came was, if you don't do this now, you'll never do it. And she just leaned over to me and said, hey, and I felt it as a question, but she said it as a statement. She said, hey, we're going to walk across the United States this summer. And so I just leaned over to her, and I'm taking notes rigorously. And I was like, okay. She's like, hey, did you hear me? Because that's kind of a big thing. And I was like, yeah, it's cool. I'm just taking notes. That sounds good. Well, later on break, she starts telling people and like some friends we had met at the classes.
I'm
she's
the
like,
rebel for sure.
Guess what we're going to do? And I'm like, I'm just like,
he already said okay.
She's like,
that was consent.
Yeah, it was. I said, okay. I didn't resist.
That was, I'm down. Let's go.
It was. And so I slowly start backing away, like, what I just agree to. And so, I kept checking back into it. And I was the one that usually would have the resistance over the next few months before we left. And she's like, are you in this thing? You're kind of checking out. And I'm like, I'm in, I'm just freaking out. And so we ended up preparing any way we knew how, letting go of a lot of things, selling things, looking for ways to just help out friends and stay with friends temporarily. And ended up taking off from Utah with a ride share we found off Craigslist. This lady just had double knee surgery, and she needed help driving she's going from Oregon, I think, to Iowa. And she's passing through Utah. We're like, hey, just pick us up. So she connected to us online, and her kids called us and made sure we were like normal and stuff. And we hopped in with her, and we rotated drivers all night, or however long it takes to drive to Iowa. And then she dropped us off at a truck stop, and that's kind of where our journey of, it had already began, of the let go process and trust and faith and everything. It just one step in front of the other. But that was where we're like, okay, we're out here. We're literally like away from family. We've got $145. We've got 2 backpacks that are way too heavy full of stuff. We've got each other. We've got all these tools. And she was trained in body code and emotion code. And she's like, we got that for us. And we've got some training in like, emotional management and understanding what walls you have. And so like, cool, we got enough stuff. And so we made our way. So yeah, that's kind of where we dropped off at a truck stop, and we're like, all right, we're out here. So that was my experience.
I'm gonna rewind you just a little bit because I want to hear Amanda's version, because I feel like she's the great instigator of all this. And what was it that kind of instigator? What pulled you, and what was that? What was that?
In what moment?
The one where you just said, "Hey, let's walk across the United States."
By that point, I had already given up my life to move to China the previous fall. Which lasted 2 weeks before I got chewed up and spit out.
Were you teaching English or something over there?
Yeah, my plan was to teach English. Cool. And unfortunately, I joined an organization that was not terribly organized, and it was kind of a mess. But anyway, so I ended up coming back, and the only thing I had when I came back was Kolton. We had started dating 2 weeks before I left to China. And I was like, perfect timing, dream guy. Showing up right as I'm moving away to have these wonderful traveling adventures.
Mr. McDreamy.
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh.
I used my birthday as leverage and everything.
Well,
like,
that was a low blow.
It was good. It was good stuff. It's you just surrender, and you just listen to your heart, and you go the right direction.
Sure, birthday boy. You're like, will you be my girlfriend because it's my birthday? And like, birthday. You can't say no on someone's birthday.
I only want one gift, okay?
Well played.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, so, I mean, it worked out, obviously. But anyway, so I came back from China, and I had an aunt that lives close to where he lived, because he lived like an hour or so north of me, of where I'd been, because I'd given all of it up, my apartment, my car, my stuff, everything, to move myself. I didn't know this was prep for a future adventure. I thought it was for China. Anyway, but I ended up moving into my aunt's house for like a week before she goes, hey, I love you so much. You've got to move because I've got to bring in my brother-in-law who's having some major, major things. And I was like, cool, I totally hear you. Thanks for giving me, some time up here. And by that point, we had made some connections with Kolton's parents, and they're like, yeah, we'll let you move in down the hall from him. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing?
Which was a godsend. Like my parents, LDS are really amazing people. Yeah. And I have 5 older sisters.
They never would have gotten away with this.
Yeah. But somehow, some way.
He's the baby. That's why it worked out.
Well done.
That's part of how it worked out. But
was it your birthday again?
May as well have been.
hey, Mom, Dad, it's my birthday.
I'm like, you know how it's like.
Oh my gosh. I think your mom knew. I think she could tell I was different.
Yeah, she could just tell that I was like, hey, I got this really special friend, and she, how she went to China. Well, she's been at her aunt's, and I just think that she just could use a spot, and can we have her over? And I think I may have alluded to it being more temporary than we didn't know. We had no plan.
Yeah,
we had no plan.
Which sometimes works out and sometimes is a little choppy, but.
But it got us cross country. So
yeah, so I ended up there, and after that, it was like he said, we ended up going back to the classes. I was trying to be sneaky while he was at work. I was trying to go volunteer so I could get him a Christmas present, and I could see the mentor already. And so I had my goal set. I'm getting him a ticket to Art of Mentoring in January. And like he said, he got fired, and it was like the best thing. I just remember sitting there in the car being like, so I already have plans today, but you can come with me if you want.
Sure.
And this is totally ruining my surprise, but oh well.
We needed to go together,
And so
I wouldn't have made that decision in that class, texting you, being like, hey, I think we should know. Like that. This is what it's meant to be,
Yeah. Yeah.
How long ago was this?
That was fall of 2016.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So it's been not 8.5 years.
Since the adventure.
Since he got let go of, and we were going to all these classes volunteering together.
Got it.
So it was January of 2017 where we made the choice to go on our walk.
Yeah.
And due to some other forces, we were like, cool, we're for sure going. And we just started letting everything go, which I didn't have as much to let go of by that point because I hadn't really built a whole lot back up since I left that previous fall. And so we just continued to let go and check, like asking ourselves, what's the next right thing? What's the next right thing?
And sometimes the next right thing for us just came from an interaction from somebody else that would give us clarity. And what I mean by that was when I think when you moved in, it was So maybe October, end of September. And I think it was right after that class I went to where we decided we're going to walk across the United States. I think it was that next week, my mom wrote this really beautiful letter to me and essentially said, hey, I love you. And if you want to continue staying here, you need to go get another job. And I'm like,
and it had been a few, 5-6 weeks since you got let go of.
Yeah. And so she's
and you weren't in a rush to get a job right around Christmas. So you didn't.
Yeah. And we had some savings and stuff. So after we had decided and I got that really beautiful heartfelt letter, I was like, well, I don't necessarily want to go start somewhere to tell them, hey, I'm leaving in a month or two. And so we respectfully just said, we love that. We're going to go ahead and move out. And so we just packed some stuff and we took off to California. And man, at that point, it was just full surrender up to California. Friends inviting us to Idaho to stay in a cabin Airbnb one weekend, and then visiting my sister up there, and then back to Utah and staying with a friend, helping her move out of her house, selling stuff. And it's just like she said, whatever the right next thing was, whatever life was calling us to, we just stepped into and didn't know why in the time, but everything was, in hindsight, a really an orchestrated preparation to be as prepared as we could be to do that.
So in family medicine, we love and care for lots and lots of different people. And in residency training in Jacksonville, we had a PhD psychologist that would work with all the residents and all of our patients, all of our clients. And she would just give therapy to us as we needed that, but then also to our clients. And one of the things that she used to talk to I remember we would co-manage like a person with depression or anxiety or having struggles with this and that. And I remember she did a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy, structure type therapy. And one of the things in her initial discussions with folks was kind of a letting go and a release of control and recognizing, what do you really have control of in this life? Like you could get hit by a car tomorrow and be gone. And there's just no real control. I think we try to exert control over our surroundings, ourself, our job, our kids, and we try to control things because there's something neurotic about the human brain that has to do stuff like that. And there is liberty in just letting that go. And it's interesting whether they had anxiety, depression, trauma, whatever. That was her first discussion with people was the only thing you really have control over is what's between your two ears. Mm-hmm. It's your brain, it's your thinking, it's the way that you perceive yourself, the world, your relationships. That's really what you have control over. And as I'm listening to your story, I'm hearing a giant release, both of monetary things, a release from job, a release from stability, a release from housing, a release from traditional dogma. This is the way that this should be. And it's beautiful. I don't know that people are really as capable of as deep a release as you guys do. I'm like, whoa, that's a lot of releasing going on. But with that release comes a lot of growth and development. And when you mentioned the word surrender, there truly is a surrendering to the elements, to the world, to all of those things. And what a beautiful way to kind of start things out is just get rid of all the things that inhibit us or that try to control us or us control them. And that's a deep release. You guys went deep.
Thank you. I think one of the most powerful releases that we've really emphasized on, especially lately, is we've been letting go of our need for things to unfold a certain way. We grab a vision, I want this. And that's as far as you need to go, really. When it really comes down to it. And it's this total paradigm shift. But it's Ryan, who we talked about earlier, my good friend, he explained it as a toggle switch. And we've been conditioned our whole lives to stay in the mechanics of how it needs to happen, how I need to plan it, how it needs to unfold, and the way I'm going to do it. And that is I'm not saying don't plan, and I'm definitely not saying don't prepare and things and follow, your insights. But I just encourage us every day and, to be what's what is your vision, and stay in that, and let go of your need for it to be a certain way. And you've got a thought, and I want to hear it.
Let's see if the thought's still there. So I feel like with the let go and staying in the vision, it's not there. I don't know where it is.
Background.
Yeah, it'll come back around.
Yeah.
I was too busy listening to you. So.
Oh, wow. That was her word
She
today.
was looking at your lips the whole time.
She's awesome.
I know what you were thinking about.
We've been doing
My fault. Look at them.
So we've been doing this thing every morning for like at least a week, maybe a little longer.
It's been about a week and a half. Okay, I'll jump in here.
Okay.
This is what I wanted to share. Thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
So this is way prominent in our life right now because after our beautiful walk, my thing that I surrendered to on our walk was I am able and capable of walking across the United States and all the parts are working together for my good. I think that's one thing I wanted to point out. I think it's powerful to have something you're surrendering to. If you're just surrendering, then you're like a boat, like a sailboat in the middle of the ocean, just being tossed around. Mm. But if you're handing that over, going, you know what? There's something bigger than me that's in my corner that loves me, that wants me to be happy and cared for. Like, it's just a beautiful place. And so on our walk, we got to watch for 15 months and 23 days straight everything that we need show up when we needed it. Like, everything. And we could be in the middle of nowhere and there might be a bottle of water on the side of the road still sealed, just sitting there. Someone too scared to talk to us, maybe, seeing Little Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf walking down the side of the road might be a little intimidating. But there was always what we needed. And when our walk ended and we were kind of thrown back into, you had a word for it earlier, the dogma, the sort of traditional way that things are. And when we got thrown back into that, we were like, what do we do? How do we do life now? We just witness miracles every day, multiple times a day. And we couldn't figure out what it was that we had done right, if you will. And in the last month or month and a half, it clicked finally that we were so much in the vision of our plan. Our plan when we left drove his poor parents crazy. So
my dad's a mechanical engineer.
So plans are everything.
Yeah, he doesn't surrender at all.
No, it's a very necessary thing in that job to be very precise because they're in landing gear and hydraulics and with Air Force and things. And so when I said,
very important.
So we said, well, what's your plan? And we said, well, we're going to walk across the United States. And well, what's your plan? Well, we're just going to figure it out. And then he asked, what's your contingency plan? I think that's when we said, well, we're just figure it out. So
yes, which I think that was what kept us out of what we call the mechanics or the plan, was staying in that, well, we've got to figure it out. What are we going to figure out today? What do we need to figure out today?
That was the vision, figure it out.
And so since our walk ended, it was, you have a baby now, because we ended with our baby, who is 3 months old and 3 months, 3 days when we finished. And people were like, you're a family now. What are you going to do? Where are your jobs? Where's your house? Where's that dogma coming into play? And we're like,
oh man, we collapsed.
I don't know. I don't know how to make these two marry. And it's only been in the last couple of months really that we've gone, oh my gosh, it worked because we were staying out of our way. Mm-hmm. We weren't saying it has to be this way. Yeah. It was, no, we have to get to this vision. We have to get to this end point. I can, go all different ways that I have to get there as long as I get there. Which also creates the peace in the journey too, which was a huge thing.
How long was the total journey for y'all?
From the time we left Utah to get out to the other ocean was only a week. But the actual ocean to ocean trek on foot was 15 months and 23 days.
Wow.
Yeah, we thought it would take 5 months. So
like 2 summers.
Mm-hmm.
This summer.
And there was a
winter
and there was a
and a
baby in
fall.
the mix too. So somewhere in that there was a 9-month,
Yeah. So Illinois,
wow.
we just made our baby, I guess. And then it was an Idaho.
Illinois was conception state. Is that what you're saying?
That's what we think.
Okay.
I know I hesitate because I'm like, we don't really know, but
Based
we made
on
it
math.
to based on
science and math.
it was amazing. We ran into so many like doctors and
But we didn't know
doulas
yet.
Yeah,
It took us 2 more states before we figured it out.
Yeah, we found out 2 days before we got into Nebraska. I'm like, what? She was kicking my butt in Illinois. I'm like, we'd be walking. If you walk, you look at your phone and you kind of slow your pace unconsciously a little bit.
So you don't trip.
It became, so you don't trip. And it became apparent that I was slowing my pace because I'd look down and I'd send a text to something and I'd look up and I'm like, oh crap. And I had to start running. And then in Missouri, we got the rolling hills and I grace, some insight, thank you, whatever's out there, helped prompt me to not say anything to her about like, why are you pooping out on me now? Like, why are you so tired? Because every time she get to the bottom, I get to halfway up the hill, hold on, get to the top, I just got to lay down. And I was like, what in the world is going on? So we had some cues and things.
It's exhausting growing organs in babies.
Yeah. Hats off. I wish every time this comes up, I wish I had a hat on because women are just like, it's amazing. It's so amazing. Like portals and the whole thing. So so we ended up getting to, it's a little tiny town called Parma, Idaho. And this whole way, since we found out that we were expecting, we created a vision. And I loved what she did. We actually on it was New Year's. We're staying in this little motel in, was it Rawlins, Wyoming? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this is how we're going to do New Year's. We're not going to stay up. Obviously, we're not drinking like you're pregnant. And we're going to do vision boards. So I went to the Family Dollar. I got some crayons and some paper. And I was like, this is how we're going to do New Year's. We're going to set the tone. We're going to set our intention and create our visions. And one of the things that she wrote on there was have a safe and easy delivery with a midwife. That was it. And all we did was keep moving and envision that happening over and over and over and over and over again. Well, we get to Parma, Idaho. We connect with this family through a series of connections. We're going to stay with them 2 nights. And on the second night, her water broke and went into labor. And I go down to talk to him. His name is John. John is a retired midwife. So we were at the home of a retired midwife when she went into labor.
Couldn't have planned it better myself.
We couldn't have. And had we needed to figure out how it was going to happen. I mean, because of course we had people the whole way, like, what are you going to do? And where are you going to go? You're just going to have the baby on the side of the road? You're going to call for help and go to the hospital? And we're like,
prepared for that.
We're going to have a home birth. They're like, how are you going to do that? We're like, we don't know. So we're just going to do it. And lo and behold, divine timing. So that was, we got to witness that divine timing every day. But that was the pinnacle of like, wow, something out there bigger than all of us is in our corner. It loves us and it wants us to have what we want, and what we want wants us, and it's just all circulating and it's beautiful. And so we got to have a home birth at a retired midwife's house
with their assistance.
It was relatively safe and easy because I can
compared to what we've heard of other births, it was safe and easy. Yes.
So anyway, the vision came to fruition, and just my mind's still blown every time that the story comes up, and how that timing. Because I mean, we couldn't have planned that. The timing for that was just impeccable. It was just absolutely incredible.
We couldn't have known that. We didn't even know he was a midwife when he picked us up.
We didn't, and we were told from we had I think it was on our route. I know you went down and had a full midwife check, which was really cool. That was another piece that came into play that unplanned to us. We got this email from the same company we had done classes with notifying us that we had free tickets. It freaked us out to leave our trek, to leave it and go off route so far back into Utah. And we had this philosophy and still carry today that we're like, if it scares us, but it's safe, we just don't know how. For us. We should probably check it out. And so we navigated the pieces and figured out the mechanics of how, and those pieces came to us from being like, we're going to go. And so long story short, we ended up going to Utah, going to the class. She got what was her name? Anyway, she got a midwife check and a full checkup where that one piece of documentation was the thing we needed and didn't know in Idaho that we needed that as proof. We're like, oh, you can't just have pictures of proof pregnancy. No, you need like a full sheet of that documentation.
Some kind of medical workup showing that you were pregnant in order to claim the baby.
Yeah. And so having that one piece and following that guidance of this scares us, we're going to do it, gave us that documentation to where when we had the baby at a retired midwife's house, we had what we needed to prove that it was our baby and that we could easily get his birth certificate and everything handled. And we're like, wow, and so it was amazing that it took us so long to figure out that's what we were doing versus mechanics and vision. And it's been like, it blows my mind that it took that long to figure it out. And at the same time, I'm so grateful for that journey because I have so much contrast now of like how that works and how this works and what life is like. I did a post a while ago before we deleted our socials, and it said something like, you can either force and push your way through life to where you want to go, or you can lean into it. Either way, you're moving forward. One just feels like a lot less pressure.
Super cool. Super cool. I think this is reminding me a little bit of like right brain, left brain stuff. So like left brain, right-handed folk, you think of your dad, right? The engineer, very structured, very organized, like he's got redundancy upon redundancy of plans and structure. And that's actually pretty cool. That's actually that's a cool, valuable thing to have. The right brain, left hand is more art and more intuition, more feel and more, journey and leaning and allowing, right? With a vision and a mantra, if you will, or a prayer, like I think they're all probably in the same space of, you're kind of saying the same thing and you're tapping into some divine power there that loves you and that, cares about you and your journey and wants that to go well for you. I don't think people have the degree of release, faith, whatever you want to call that, to do it to the degree you guys did. I mean, that's pretty neat. A lot of maybe the left brain folks would maybe be critical of that kind of a thing. Yeah. But
it's that loss of control, right? They're afraid of losing that control.
Yeah. I think there's a balance here between these two. And I've been on this journey my whole life too, just figuring that balance out, right? With medicine, like very, very, very like, left brain, very
gotta be precise.
Science, this is the way. And
very important.
And it tends to be dogmatic too. Medicine does. But as you get past that dogma, you can look at it as more art, because there is art and intuition in everything that we do in caring for someone and in listening to their story and hearing their journey and then being willing to flex with that and to consider changing your brain cells to something different, because this is not, fitting the bill with what you think it might be, and I think this is so neat to have done such an extreme version of the flow state of goodness. I'm just like, I'm just gonna have a baby alone. I don't know. And then magically, a midwife turns up, and magically this documentation, like it is beautiful. I think applying that to all of our journey in life, like wherever you are, there's dogma everywhere. And the dogma is not bad, right? It's not innately bad. Like the structure of spirituality, the structure of religions, the structures are great. The school system structure, like, okay, these are great structures. Yeah. But then within that structure, leaning into this more right brain journey of individual growth, autonomy over some of those choices and then over some of that. And I think it's a struggle in our same thing with raising children, right? Like exercising control over these children, like authoritarian type parenting versus like totally loosey-goosey, hey, do whatever you want. You're three, you're on your own, you get it. So maybe there's a balance between those two brains as we embark on any number of our life journeys, but super cool.
I actually feel like you can see the imbalance of the dogma when it feels like you're a salmon swimming upstream. I think once you hit that point where you're going, I'm doing the things, I'm checking the boxes, I'm following the system, and you just feel like you're clawing your way forward, it's maybe a good sign to look at where do I need to just let go and let things exist and live?
It's usually at those points I've found that when pressure and stress and things build up, there's either a let go that needs to happen or a boundary that needs to be set that's not being set. And that's been really, really helpful for us, having 2 young boys and going, oh my gosh, I'm so frustrated. And even just like the simple stuff of like, I work from home a lot lately and my boys want to play with me and they know where I'm at and they can find me, they can sniff me down. And I'm like, just, Dad, come play with me. I want to do this. Let me show you this. And I'm like, I love you so much. And I got to stay committed to this. And it doesn't mean, that I love you any less, or it doesn't mean that I don't want to spend time with you. And it actually tears me apart for a second. But then like coming back to that center of, okay, it is okay to set a clear boundary, know that I love them and that we're all okay. And that we can go back to this. I can stay to my commitments, keep my integrity, and still care for my family. So hopefully that helps somebody that's working from home that has that syndrome.
This is so cool. And this is going to help a lot of my colleagues, because a lot of my colleagues are a salmon swimming upstream. They're stuck in a really dogmatic medical system that they want to be extricated from, but they don't know how to. And they're just stuck. And they're like feeling the burn. They're like burning out. They hate it. It's not real care. It's just not really good care. And so they're trying to figure out, how do I let go? And how do I create a boundary? And it's a hard journey. It was hard for me. Like I was in the system, right? And I was recognizing the pain points. I was definitely swimming upstream and stuck in the system and all the dogma. And I knew that I needed to let go, and I needed to have a boundary against that system. That system that necessitates bureaucratic box checking bullcrap. We call it the 3 Bs.
The BBB.
Those triple Bs. That creates like all these boundaries between me and my clients. Like, what do you mean they can't come in? They got to pay a copay. What do you mean I can't call them? Like, what? Like, it just creates all this silliness. And liberating yourself from that and creating like this Voyage Clinics, my current clinic that I have, has been like amazing. And I set a boundary. I said, we're not going to get back into the system that the way it operates now. We'll just do it affordably, transparently, and beautifully, and deliver care to people in a totally different, outside the box way, where you can apply right and left brain cells to someone's healthcare. We can spend 30 to 60 minutes with them and hear their story and feel the nuance of caring for that person. And it's been really, really beautiful for me. And I've been on this ship for 8 years. So we started it. It's been lovely. A lot of my colleagues are still stuck in the system and they're struggling. And I probably call 3 docs a week and we talk it through. And they're like, oh, these are my reservations. This is where I'm struggling. And I'm like, I know, I was there. I totally get it. And you got to let go and you got to put a boundary in place. And so I love that you said those things, and you said those things because they are exactly what my journey was in like letting go of this system that tells you have to do these things this way. I delivered babies for 10 years. I know the system there. I get it. And those systems are okay in some situations. But right now, I think the healthcare system is largely dogmatic and largely broken, with this insurance payer system in place and all of the silliness, the triple Bs that it puts us all through, and creating all this silliness. And so, yeah, get it out of the way and create a boundary to it. It's super healthy.
Do you feel like you had a vision that caught you in your let go?
Yeah, my vision, and we actually just talked about it today. We have staff meeting every Wednesday where we talk about our mission, vision, and objective. My vision was, I believe that families deserve better care than what they're getting. And I just want to spend more time with them. I want to be more accessible, more available, and more affordable. Like, I just saw all these boundaries that were pushing people into these scarcity-minded states around their care. And I just wanted to kind of let all that go and create something totally different. Yeah, it's been cool.
That's beautiful.
The reason I asked that was because I was thinking of your colleagues. If they have a vision that's going to catch them, it's easy to let go if you feel like there's something that's catching you, If you're just letting go, it's just like being, like I said earlier, a sailboat in the middle of the ocean. But if you have a vision that's catching you and you let go,
surrender to that.
Then where can you go?
That being the way, the only way that I'm going to allow things to go. And however I navigate there, that's the let go of like, however it gets there, that's totally fine. It almost seems really paradoxical of like, I'm going to let go and I'm going to set boundaries. And it's like, wait, what? And it's like, they coincide, and it's two sides of the same coin, but.
Well, the boundaries to protect the vision, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is fear around that steady employment, because they don't know how to run a business. They don't know how to gain new clients. They don't know. There's a lot of unknowns, and your journey was tons of unknowns, like tons.
Only unknowns.
The whole thing was, we'll figure it out. We'll just figure it out. And I love that.
I will say this, we were not chill the entire time, just figuring it out.
Definitely.
You weren't super groovy, just like, hey guys, what's going on?
We had a lot more than probably anyone would expect, but not all the time.
Oh man,
I do want that to be clear.
I clearly remember like experience, because I've usually been like fairly calm. I tell people, oh, I used to have this crazy rage and anger, and I still deal with it. And I've done so much work on it. And they're like, what? No. And I'm like, but one thing I didn't experience a lot of was anxiety until we were on our trek, and I didn't know where I was going to sleep at night. And I was used to that, thank you, Mom and Dad. And so every evening around 4:00, I'd start to like feel all this anxiety rise and be like, what is this? What is this? And it's, I see that my mind is trying to figure out where I'm going to sleep. It's getting attached to how I'm going to sleep, instead of just going, we're going to find a place to sleep tonight. So eventually we slipped into that vision of, yeah, we'll find a place to sleep tonight. And then that was it. That was where it ended.
Until we discovered that we were expecting a baby.
And then it like reintroduced that worry.
New level of fear.
Yeah. And so we went to, and to be fair, our original intention of the trek was a journey of self-discovery. And to discover who you are, you have to strip away who you are not. And so that was a big part of that process. And boy, did we get it. And the journey doesn't stop, and it's beautiful. I love, part of the conversation before we started here was just going into that, like stripping away who we think we are and who we think we should be, and really just getting to the center of like who we are and how we want to live and what we really want. And
knowing that that's also a lifelong journey as you reach new accomplishments or stages of life. Your little self, my 5-year-old self had this idea of what it's going to be like when I'm a grandma. Once I reach that stage, I'm going to have to strip that down and go, okay, who do I choose to be as a grandma? Mm-hmm. Which, is way down the road. But
yeah.
This consistent self-discovery process, which is, I think that is really that was the beginning of this journey, this discussion. It was like, I went to these classes just trying to figure out a little bit more self-discovery stuff. Yeah. And then your whole journey was that. And I think we're all in that journey of continued self-discovery, and it's complex and it's beautiful. And like my wife and I, we have our Michael Jordan anniversary in a couple of days. It's our 23rd.
Awesome.
I'm going to get her some Jordans.
That's so cute.
She's not athletic. She's not going to love it, but I'm going to get a jersey, a hat. Like
oh my gosh, that's so cute.
I'm not going to do that. It's so thoughtful. But like, it's been really, really beautiful seeing like her discovery journey, like, and mine, as we age, as we grow, as we raise kids together, as we just figure it out. There are times when we have to strip away who we thought we were, and we need to kind of pull back and like reevaluate. And it's beautiful. It's a whole nother discovery process. And I'm like, baby, I love you so much. Like, it's incredible. Like, you've changed and you've grown, and like, it's just beautiful. Like, it's
fresh, right?
Super cool. Yeah. So I don't know, you guys, like what is that process? If we were to distill that down for someone and say, continue that adventure of self-discovery, what is that for someone, do you guys reckon?
I think one of the most prominent things, at least it's been on my mind lately, is recognizing where you've made up a rule for yourself, where you've put yourself in a box again for the way it has to be, and go, wait a second, I make up a rule for this. I'm trying to think of a specific example, maybe around like parenting or something, where I guess kind of like I said earlier, of like, I had this rule that I had to show up all the time. Anytime my boys wanted to play with me, I was a bad dad if I didn't like totally engage. And that was the rule that I made up. And so then I would become who I didn't want to be, which was frustrated and angry. And so as I stripped that away, going, okay, that's not true. I can be a really engaged, loving dad and still have time where it's just to myself or for my work. And it helped me discover more about like my work ethic and that I really wasn't lazy. I was just conflicted. And so, just recognizing where you've put yourself in a box for anything, career, parenting, or hobbies, anything that you feel like you should. I like to say, if any, stop shooting on yourself. But like, it almost seems like anytime somebody states, "Oh, I should," and it's projected into the future, it's a good signal that, well, you're shooting on yourself and you've put yourself in a box. And if you really want that, then check into that and say, well, I'd really like to, or I'm going to, like, this is happening, rather than an obligatory should do this, because then you're just putting a pressure on yourself. And then you're likely shaming yourself unconsciously. And, with shaming yourself, you're going to continue to spin down that same cycle of identity of, should be doing, and keep yourself projecting that. So got a little farther, but that's where I'd kind of start. It's like, where's the rules?
I love that you mentioned the should
shoulds?
thing and the guilt and shame thing. I think that is super counterproductive to progress.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And self-discovery.
I call it the shame cycle. Like when I struggled with a lot of like porn addiction and stuff growing up, and having everything so taboo and couldn't talk about anything. And so it's like, went down that road. It was like, I discovered the shame cycle. It's like anytime I slipped and whatever, I would catch myself shaming myself. And what I realized that in studying psychology is that when you shame yourself for something, you're belittling yourself, but also telling yourself that that's who you are. Mm-hmm. And as I love what Tony Robbins says, something along these lines of like, the strongest force in the human personality is the need to stay consistent with who you think you are. And so if you're continuing to like project that onto yourself over and over and over, you're going to stay in the shame cycle, and your identity is not going to shift, and you're not going to experience a new world or a change that's sustainable or regenerative. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Amanda, tell us your pearls from this journey. Tell us what you've gleaned.
Well, my add to your question, as far as like identifying yourself, is asking why. It sometimes seems too simple, but really looking at why do I do something? Why do I want something? Why am I choosing these things? And if it comes down, for me, in my experience, when it comes down to, oh, I learned it here, or this is what I was taught, or something outside of me, that's a very good sign that it's not mine, that I'm taking on these ideas from teachers and parents and religious leaders and whatever, instead of going, okay, what's really right for me? And, for me, I sometimes joke that I'm a better Mormon now that I'm not one. Because the beautiful things that they teach, honesty, integrity, family, kindness, service, all of these things are so much easier for me now that I'm choosing them for me, and not to fit in, and not to
gain acceptance
or be a part of something, or check my boxes so that I can, have all of my freedoms in that experience or whatever. And so it's, for me, it's really going, why am I choosing what I am? And am I choosing it for me, or am I choosing it for someone else? If I'm choosing it for me, it's right. And that's usually when I'm on a path that stays in vision and connects me sooner to my beautiful visions that I have of what I want for my life.
Our journey of life is one of neuroplasticity. Mm-hmm. Neuroplasticity is just the ability to change your brain and your mind and your thinking. And unfortunately, there is dogma on every street, right? On every corner, whether it's like educational, medicine, religion, all these things. They have these little stuckisms, and I don't think they're intentional. Like, I don't think their intention is for you to always be this way of a thinker. It's just to give you a scaffolding to grow and create some of these individual thinking patterns. A fresh view of oneself, God, and the world is, by definition, the Greek word from which repentance is derived. And that is beautiful. And that is neuroplasticity. And I think that is the intention of all of this life journey, as we continue our personal self-discovery, our world self-discovery, our discovery of those around us. For me, I like to forage for mushrooms, so that's a discovery process. Cool. There's all kinds of wonder and beauty out there to be discovered as we continue to strip away some of these are who you should be, or these are who you think you are, and just kind of release to that and surrender to that. One of the things that we've used clinically in my office for more than a year now, we work with a psychiatrist to help set up protocols, and We do a ton of mental health and family medicine, a ton. And mental health is often anxiety, depression, wherever it is, it's stuck in a way of thinking. And anxiety is, oh my gosh, what if, right? What if I can't find a decent place for my family to sleep tonight? Oh my gosh, what if, or depression is like, coulda, shoulda, woulda. I'm shaming myself. I'm a bad person and I should have done something differently. But to rescript that and to rework that and recalibrate that is a challenge. I mean, you're like asking someone to change a thought pattern that they've had since they were young. And it is super hard. So one of the tools we use is ketamine in the office. And it's been so neat to see people rescript and recalibrate and find a therapeutic disassociation from their dogma, from their stuckism, and then come back after that state of disassociation, come back to something that is more appropriately aligned, not perfectly, but to a healthier degree, right? So their depression is much more tamped down because they've let go. Literally, ketamine is a force to let go. Yeah, it is. You're gone from yourself, from your dogma, from your thinking, from everything is gone.
Step back from the thoughts for a second.
All your thoughts are gone.
Hold up.
And then when you come back, it's like, wow, that's what that felt like. I've never felt that before. I think the intention of like meditation, transcendental meditation, is to accomplish the same thing, is to get you to that disassociative state, released from the frontal cortex, and just kind of chill there. But not everybody's skilled enough to do that. And with our 7-second attention span now that our society has, there's no way. I just don't know that that's reasonable. But it's been a really wonderful tool in helping people's journey, right, along their journey of neuroplasticity. And with the science for a minute, BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, is growth hormone for our brain. And it causes a spike in BDNF in our brains, which promotes neuroplasticity. And it's super neat. Yeah, super neat. I love that. Dr. Nyberg and I did a really neat podcast on it. It was many moons ago, but yeah, this has been really cool. Guys, your neuroplastic journey has been one of freaking amazing. And I really appreciate your sharing with me. And I just think it's super cool. Just super cool. The lessons here are good for me to hear, and hopefully good for our audience as well. And yeah, just thank you so much. Anything in closing, any other pearls to share with us? Amanda, take it. Take it.
Because we've kind of ended on the neuroplasticity of it all, I just want to invite people to really look at themselves and know that there's so much more possible than they could imagine. Before I met my husband, when I was just reaching adulthood, 18, 19, I struggled severely with depression and anxiety, so bad that I wouldn't leave my parents' basement for weeks at a time. And to go from that girl to the girl who is staying with strangers almost every day on a 15-month walk across the United States with a newborn in the end, like for me, it's still hard to fathom how much I've had to evolve to be able to do that. And there's just so many ways. So if your vision is to evolve, whether it's ketamine or other, beautiful resources, just catch the vision and let yourself evolve.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
I love that. I think it's just been so helpful, valuable, and impactful to learn, especially lately, to really deepen the understanding that those thoughts that come in that make me, whatever, someone's shadow is of like bitterness or resentment or depression, it's just the cycle. It's just those defaults, as I like to call them, coming back. And it's up to us to call, yourself, myself, to call BS on those thoughts and go, you know what? No, I'm going to doubt this doubt. If you're going to doubt anything, doubt the things that make you feel worried and go, I think that there is a way, and I can't figure this out. And I'm going to just choose this new thought, whatever that vision is, to just choose it and choose it and choose it. And you'll get answers. You'll get answers bit by bit, and watch the magic happen.
Beautiful. Thank you again, guys. Thank you for your pearls of wisdom, and what a cool journey. Super, super fun. To our audience, thanks for chiming in or tuning in. And I hope this was helpful for y'all, and like and subscribe. Thanks.